Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about how to get, build up, and then play Namor. And we're going to do some gameplay at the end, but of course, for the first part, we're going to start with the build and how I've designed it and how it kind of feeds into his strengths and covers up some of his weaknesses, and then also the most important, first crucial step, how to get Namor. So the easiest, fastest, and most expensive way to get Namor is to get him through the X Gene subscription. He is a mutant, as they have deemed him so in Marvel Future Fight, so he is available. You can get 20 biometrics per day of his bios through the X Gene subscription for a total of 30 days. Now, once you get his biometrics, you can unlock him at 1 star, just like Wave, and then from there you have a few options. You can continue collecting his biometrics. You're going to need to spend at least 1 rank up ticket because you get 600 bios over the month, but you need 630 to get him to 6 stars. My recommendation, like Wave, is to invest in a mega rank up ticket to get him to 6 stars. From there, I know a lot of players, after getting him to 6 stars, tier 1, will then use the remaining 29 days of the X-Gene subscription to collect those extra 580 bios, and then use those bios to upgrade his gears and get him to tier 2. That is a fantastic idea. It's a cheaper solution, and of course you will still end up with a tier 2 Namor that you can then take to tier 3 later if you want, because once you get him to tier 2, you don't need his bios except for a future uniform, but that might be, you know, a few months to a year down the road anyways, so we shouldn't worry too much about that. In my case, I went ahead and used a mega tier 2 ticket after that because I just have an extra one and I wanted to see how strong he is at tier 2, because he is the character that I have the most criticism for, and I had the most criticism for when I was checking him out in the kind of test server before the update. Really concerned about his survivability, despite the fact that he does have 25% decreased damage and he has super armor. He only had 1 iframe and he had just a guard hit on his 4th skill. They added an iframe on his 3rd skill, Wave Slam. He still does suffer from some survivability issues and you have to pay attention, but I did not realize when I was on the test server how massive his stat boosts are. To cover up for the fact that his skills are a little bit vanilla, he has some insane stats, and you can see there I'm rocking over 37,000 HP and over 23,000 physical attack with a pretty I would say average build. Now I do have 5-star or 5-star Uru, but I don't have 5-star Uru throughout, but I went ahead with some crit rate and some physical attack, and along with a little bit of cooldown and ignore defense. Now keep in mind, from his passives he does get 30% crit damage, so you don't really need, or sorry, 25% crit damage, so you don't really need to give him that many crit damage Urus, even if you go with an obelisk, and pretty much any CTP that you give him is going to give him crit damage except for rage, and we'll talk about rage. But because he also gets that guaranteed crit, and because he also gets the chance to increase his crit damage, and because he has multiple skills that deal, I would say, decent damage, you're going to hear a lot of people saying that he's good for a CTP of Rage, and I would agree with that. However, in my case, I didn't want to give him a Rage, I didn't want to give him an Energy yet because he doesn't have that many hits, so I went ahead and I gave him a regular damage proc Obelisk. That's right, a free-to-play 5-star Obelisk. 34% crit damage, 25 or 15% crit rate, and 100% proc. So we're going to see how well he does with this build. It's a stage 9 Power of Angry Hulk. I do think he absolutely needs the attack speed, so I wouldn't go for overdrive, and again, because he gets that 25% crit damage from his passive, he doesn't need the crit damage from overdrive. You could also go for Hawk's Eye for the dodge and the cooldown, although he does have cooldown, I believe. No, you know what? He doesn't have cooldown on any of his gears, so you could actually go for Hawk's Eye. It's not the worst option. Hawk's Eye is good, especially if you're going to go for a CTP of Rage, because it gives you that extra bump in dodge that he's not going to get from anywhere else. So yeah, a lot of people are going to go for Rage, some people go for Energy. I'm not really sure which one yet. He may also be good for a CTP of Regen for PvP, although combat types have struggled a lot recently for PvP. I don't have too exciting of a time in the future for Thing, even though we thought he was going to be really good for PvP. So I hesitate to suggest and recommend him for PvP. As far as his skills go, really quickly, you just want to level up 4 and 5 because you get those extra bonuses to the stats and to the guard hit. Everything else you can leave at either 1 or 3. So now let's take him into some content and see just how strong he is. We're going to go into World Boss. I was testing this out on the live stream not that long ago. This is pretty wild. This is a stage 50. Now we are going to use a full host of team-ups, but this is a level 60 character. Keep in mind, it's level 60 character. And keep in mind, I don't have full Uru. And also keep in mind, he's got a 100% damage proc Obelisk. He doesn't have a CTP. He doesn't have a CTP of Rage. He's got an Obelisk. We're going to swap out Luna Snow for Deadpool because that would be the ideal situation, and then we're going to go into the fight and see how much damage he does, and also, more importantly, see if he can survive, because it's also really important. I also brought along, as you can see, Anti-Venom on the Striker list, because he needs that HP. Namor doesn't have a heal. A lot of people will say, well, some people will say that Namor appears to be lacking in some of his skills and some of his passives because he's going to get a uniform, and honestly, I wouldn't argue too much with that. Namor definitely does seem like the type of character who will benefit greatly from a uniform when he finally does get one, and I can definitely see people saying so. We're getting quite lucky with the all defense down. That's why the damage is spiking, but he hits quite hard. Namor does hit quite hard. With the extra crit damage, he's going to crit for, 300%. So this is actually pretty crazy. I haven't seen the bars move this fast. But when you have a character that has that much crit and has that hard, like he hits that hard, basically, with all defense down, it really amplifies that. But as far as the rotation goes, you want to keep 3 around for the snap iframe. 5 is nice for the buff, although I don't think it's really good for damage. I think his 4th skill is honestly his best skill for damage, so I like to cycle in 4 as much as I can. But I got slapped around there. That's pretty bad. I gotta back up and try to collect some of these heals. We did proc our Obelisk again, but we're doing this much damage with an Obelisk, which is pretty wild, if you ask me, that he's able to clear a stage 50 this fast. Now, of course, I'm getting lucky with the all defense down strikers, but still, this is a lot of damage. Now, we are gonna take... Oh, we're probably... No, we're not dead. Okay. I thought we were going to die because of the spears, but we didn't. So we're just going to have to stall here for a little bit. But man, he was going at breakneck speed. Like 2 minutes, it looked like, for the actual clear, which is, disgustingly fast. And keep in mind that with his 5th skill, he's going to get additional defense for it. He gets additional 70% defense, so that does make him quite a bit tankier, although I might be dead here. Because those spears came down again, and the one problem, one of the challenges you're going to see with Namor is that you can't see anything on the ground, and this is becoming a common theme with new characters lately. The world bosses predicate their, they telegraph their attacks by putting stuff on the ground, and if you can't see those on the ground because you're covering up the ground with a bunch of water effects, that's kind of a problem. So yeah, this is a really fast clear. I'm kind of shocked, but we're gonna go ahead and take it for what it's worth. And boom, there we go. That was like a 2 minute, basically a 2 minute clear, with a stage stage 50 Proxima with a level 60 Namor. We weren't able to get his potential unlocked, but his damage, like, he hits really, really hard. Not only does he hit really hard, but he has low cooldowns on most of his skills besides 5, and so he's able to cycle through them a lot. I think a nice rotation would be something like 5 cancel 4 to proc on those tentacles as they smash down, and then after 4 to do 3, and then after 3 you can either just do 2 and 1, or you can kind of kite around and then do 3 again because it's such a low cooldown. So, every 4 seconds you can spam the 3rd skill. Alternatively, you could do something like 3 cancel 4 for a proc, and then use the 5th skill, and then use the 3rd skill again. Thank you for the invite, but I can't play right now because I'm recording. I'm going to love saying that in the future. It's the new thank you for the Dimension Rift. Thank you for the Giant Boss Raid invitation. I won't be able to record on Saturdays because Galactus will be so hot. But yeah, so that is kind of how it shakes out for Namor. He has some obvious strengths and he has some obvious weaknesses. He may not be your type of player to play as. He's kind of like, in some ways, he's kind of like Gambit because he is quite fragile. Despite having high HP and high base stats, he even has high defenses, he can die very quickly. Kind of like Sabretooth. He doesn't have the heal like Sabretooth does, but otherwise, it's high damage and also the high possibility that you will die. Because he only has really one skill that's going to protect him outside of iframes, it becomes quite dicey. I don't think he's actually, even though I did mention PvP, I don't think he's actually going to have any impact at all in PvP because he basically cannot protect himself whatsoever against Captain Marvel. He's not going to be able to tank her hits. So he immediately gets countered by any Captain Marvel out there. He'd also probably be really hard countered by Doctor Strange because he's going to try to hide in iframes, and Doctor Strange also has iframe ignore, and he has the type advantage. So I really think that if you want Namor, you should look at this character as an above average statted combat character who will become probably will become OP in the future with a uniform. So I do think that if you get him out of a premium hero chest, and that is the other way to obtain Namor. It is, of course, RNG based, and I don't recommend spending crystals on this at all, but I just want to show you that it's there, so that if you pull a Namor out of a premium hero chest from somewhere else, like special missions or something like that, you can obtain him as either like a 3, 4, 5, or 6 star, and then rank him up from there. But I think he will be great in the future. Whether it's going to be a Phoenix 5 uniform with Colossus Magic, Emma Frost, and Cyclops, or whether it's going to be something else entirely, whether it's going to be like an Illuminati outfit or something else. I do think that the devs, my suspicion and the suspicion of some people in the community is that they made him like this kind of a little bit boring. I mean, still very fun to play, very cool animations, very cool sound effects. They're really going hard on characters with really cool sound effects. Like Molten Man lately, I've noticed they've really upped their production values on the sound effects, and that's great. But when I look at this character, he has at least 2 skills that were made in like a minute. They made these skills super fast, and they made them super boring, because I think they are going to be giving him a uniform in the future, and they're going to be sort of, melding together what they made now with what they're planning for him in the future. And that could mean that he's going to be a super scary character when he gets that uniform, because his stats are just insane. They're out of this world. And if they give him immunity, if they give him penetration, like there's so many meta abilities that they could give him that if they did, he would be a headache for characters to fight. But right now he just doesn't have that. He doesn't have any healing. He doesn't have any penetration. He doesn't have more. He only has 2 iframes, so he could have more iframes. He doesn't have any invincibility. He doesn't have guard break immunity. He doesn't have fracture. He doesn't have a lot of things. And so if they were to give him some of those things, he could be a terror, and I think he will be. But again, do you want to build a character based on what he could be or what he is now? So with that being said, yes, Namor seems like an above average character. He doesn't really fill a role that we don't have already. Like if you have Captain America and you build him offensively for PvE, you're not necessarily going to need Namor. But if you already like physical damage characters like I do, then you might want to have him just as an extra clear for Proxima, just as an extra character to just smash people around. And yeah, that's kind of how it shakes out. Kind of an expensive character, huge potential, a little bit untapped at the moment. That would kind of be my summary of Namor. So let me know what you guys think of the gameplay. That was a crazy level 50 clear. Those bars were just flying down, just burning up the HP. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Take care.